Something that I weave through all of my work is that at the root or at the core, we're all basically good. So when we think about at our core, we're good, or there's something very whole. At our core, we're not broken, we're not damaged, we're whole. What prevents us from discovering that and really knowing that all the time are these habits that we have, and a lot of them are generated by the nervous system. Our primitive brain, the negativity bias, the way our brain likes to remember everything bad that ever happened because it wants to prevent it from happening again. There's a good intention, but a not very helpful outcome. And just as you're getting settled into the practice, let your shoulders relax. You might have your eyes open still. You could look around the room. There's this big difference between the fear for our safety in the moment and the fear for our safety in the future. So right now in this moment, if we can notice, we look around, we see the cues of safety, we let our nervous system notice. Right now it's okay for me to relax. It's okay for me to take some deeper breaths. I'm safe right now. When we start a practice like that, noticing in our nervous system, in that nonverbal language the nervous system has, that it's okay to soften our muscles, it's okay to breathe more deeply, then we have a chance at pulling the mind back in from the future worry. Will I be safe in the future? And when we have that running through our mind all the time, it creates a lot of stress and anxiety and fear. It's very hard on our system. But it also really kind of blocks out or makes it less available to us, that knowing of our wholeness, our basic goodness. So as we're settling into the practice, that's the core knowing is our own basic wholeness and basic goodness. And that we have a lot of things that obscure that and make it hard for us to access that. And that's okay. It's just the way our system works. But when we understand our system, then we can let ourselves relax a little bit. We don't have to try to find some goodness or develop some goodness in ourselves. It's already there. So let's just focus on that for a moment. I'm fundamentally good, whole, unbroken. Notice what the mind does when you say that. It might set up a bunch of rebuttals. Well, you're not really all that good. Look at the comment you made, or look how frustrated you were when you were doing this, or you had that jealous thought, or can't get out of bed and do your walk. What's going on with you thinking you're such a hotshot? And that's very familiar language, oftentimes from when we were children, but also with the inner critic. We have this perfection control mechanism that's very strong in our culture and most of our lives. So if we were to sit with that and let that be known, that's one of the responses in my mind. We could see that for what it is. It's not the truth. We don't have to be perfect in all of our thoughts in order to be basically good and unbroken. We don't have to expect that of ourselves. That's actually another way to keep ourselves trapped. As we work with cultivating gratitude, one of the things that I'm very grateful for is that I know a lot about trauma and the trauma response. I know how similar our systems are, even though the details are different. We all have a survival system, a primitive brain. We all want to be connected with each other. We all have trouble trusting that that's going to work out okay. We all have some level of anxiety and fear for the future. We have all of these mechanisms in common. And some of these mechanisms make it very difficult to be present and whole, to really feel that we are basically good and whole. So as we're doing this practice, notice what's here. Notice what's not helpful or unhelpful. And see if you could let that move to the background. You could bring your awareness more into the interior, into your heart center if you wanted. What does your heart know about this? What does your heart know about basic goodness? What does your heart know about being whole and unbroken? And as you're registering that, notice what that feels like. You could also notice the thoughts coming in, but also notice, what does it feel like to sit with this knowing? What does my heart know about being whole and unbroken? One of the changes that happens as we do this deeper healing work is that we get to be very patient and kind with ourselves. We take some of the pressure off in terms of wanting to be perfect or in control. We get to really see these mechanisms as they work in our body, mind, and our life. And that's something that we could also notice if there's gratitude here for that. I know myself so well. I'm not exactly thrilled at some of the patterns that are causing suffering, and yet I know why they're here. I know and I trust that I'll continue to heal. My shoulders that used to be right up in my ears are a little bit softer, a little bit softer. We can gradually let go of that tension in our body. So let's take a moment to go into a relaxation, kind of scanning through our body. We'll start with the whole back of the body, since we were talking about the shoulders up around our ears. Really notice the back of your neck, your shoulders, the back of your shoulders, large muscles that cover the shoulder blades, through the whole of the top and middle of your back. And as you're letting those muscles soften, just notice what that feels like. Your shoulders might settle a little bit towards the back, whatever you're supported by. Or if you're sitting up, letting them settle a bit down. And as you take a few breaths, notice if you can deepen the softening on the exhale. You could take some deeper breaths, long, slow exhales, larger inhales. And notice the back of your shoulders down through the back of your arms and hands. Let your arms be at rest. And this helps to counteract that kind of instinctual, I have to have my arms and hands ready to protect myself. So we could open our eyes again and look around the room, really notice with our eyes, let our eyes signal to our body that we don't need to be ready for fight or flight. And you could stretch a bit or let yourself be still. There's no right or wrong answer to how we're with ourselves in this moment. And as you're breathing out and you're noticing that the body naturally wants to soften, there's something else to really appreciate. As much as our system tightens up and our survival system wants us to be ready to engage in fight or flight, we also have this amazing capacity to soften and relax. And it's built right into the breath. We take a deep in-breath. And on the exhale, our body automatically moves into softening. And that might not happen every time, maybe if we're in a state of freeze, but it happens reliably most of the time. When we focus on the exhale, especially, our body starts to soften. It's like, whoa, I was waiting for that. I was waiting for this awareness and consciousness and attention. Now I can take some deeper breaths. I can stop holding my breath. I can let myself soften and relax. So continuing down through your back, through your mid-back and your lower back, and then into your buttocks, the back of your thighs, back of your calves, your heels. Let your legs also relax, just like your arms. Notice the back of your legs. And then notice your whole back body. Let your body be supported. Let yourself surrender into the support that you have, whether that's a seat, lying on the floor, or a bed. And then bring your attention to the front of your body. Relax your forehead and eyes, eyebrows. When we worry, we often have our brows knitted. So relaxing our brows helps to signal the brain that we don't need to worry about anything right now. And when we relax the muscles around our eyes, the deep muscles of the eyes as well, we might appreciate our sight. There's some things that we see with our eyes that are threatening or uncomfortable or gross or something, but there's a lot of beauty that we see in our eyes. We can see the sky and the forests and the oceans and the lakes and faces of people we love. There's so many things we can appreciate if we have the gift of sight. And softening the forehead, the eyebrows, the eyes, and then bring your attention down to your mouth and jaw, where we have the gift of speech, the gift of taste. If you're clenching your teeth, roll your lower jaw around a little bit to release tension out of the hinges of your jaw. Let your tongue rest, your throat. And notice the front of your neck, the sides of your neck and your shoulders, and then down through the front of your arms. Your hands, fingers, fingertips. And as you breathe out, let that area soften. We do a lot of action in the world through our arms and hands. The gift of touch, cooking a meal, touching someone's face, feeling lovely, soft textures like the petal of a rose. We can put our own hand or hands on our heart, feel the warmth of our own support, or hold our own hands, feel that. Our hands are pretty amazing. And then bring your attention back up to the top of your head and come down through your forehead again. Our eyes, mouth, and jaw down through into the chest area. We have these large bands of muscles that help to operate the arms. And they also cover the rib cage. Rib cage protects our heart and lungs. Coming down into the stomach area, and this is where we notice the motion with our breath. And notice what's changed in your stomach area since you first started the practice. The belly softens. And the belly softening is what allows our breath to move more deeply. It's the diaphragm muscle that connects to the lower rib cage that runs the breath. As we relax the muscles of our chest and back and the muscles of our belly, our whole breath gets deeper, more nourishing. And we have this amazing system that doesn't always work 100% because of different conditions. We might have asthma or something else going on in our lungs or our heart. Might have some kind of issues. But if we're here and we're breathing, we could notice the blessing that our breath is. And this system that we have, where every chance we get, we move into more relaxation and more health. Our body is always trying to promote health. And as we soften our belly and our breath gets deeper, it relaxes our body. It signals our nervous system that it's safe to relax. We're able to take some deeper breaths and nourish all the cells in our body with that rush of oxygen. And then let your awareness flow down into the front of your legs, down to your feet. And so often when we pay attention to our whole body, our attention is drawn to what's not working well, or maybe if there's some kind of pain or fatigue, maybe there's something about our body we don't like. Just for a moment, bring to mind some things that you love doing with your body. A moment ago when we were talking about the hands, I just had this little flash of swimming in a lake and the feeling of the cool water on my hands and coming down my arms, shoulders, and through the rest of my body. So what are some really wonderful experiences you can have with your body that you could just focus on for a minute? Let your mind flow from one to another, but really feel, just that feel like these wonderful things, activities that we can do with our body. And the simple experience of having a hug with someone or hugging ourselves, that warmth that we can feel. Having a good stretch. And notice what there is here to be grateful for. And then come back into just the feeling in the heart center and that sense of basic goodness. I'm whole. I'm not broken. There might be parts of me that are having trouble with something. But at my core, I'm basically good and I'm whole. Our heart knows this. We know this on some level. Let's anchor into that for another minute or two. Let yourself feel the truth of that. I'm whole. And if your mind wanders off into something else or a rebuttal, that's okay. Just bring it back. Put your hands on your heart if you want. In my deepest knowing, my deepest heart, I know that I'm whole. And then when you're ready, open your eyes.